At the end of the life review, everything becomes crystal clear. Who your soulmate is, why you had certain challenges, why you went through certain obstacles within life, how you overcame, what you learned about yourself. All of these things are shown to you. What people don't realize is that spirits do have regrets once they make it to the other side. Coolest thing about the life review process is that young children go through it, pets go through it, we go through it. So what happens when a pet goes through a life review? How is it different than our soul? You might see your dog chasing something or barking at something when nothing is there. It's because they are seeing a soul.
I'd like to welcome back to the show returning champion, Matt Frazier. How you doing, Matt?
Good. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you so much for coming back, brother. How's everything been?
Been good. Listen, life is crazy when you talk to the dead. I gotta tell you, it's like you can never live a normal life because if it's not the wife, it's the kids. If it's not the kids, it's the cats. If it's not the cats, it's the dead. So I feel like I'm surrounded by all areas.
Yes, yes, you are, man. Well, today we're going to talk about your new up-and-coming book, Don't Wait Till You're Dead. Spirits advice from the afterlife. Yes. Which is if there's anyone who can write this book, it's you, sir.
Well, it's so funny because everybody thinks being a medium that I know everything there is to know about the other side, the afterlife, what happens when you die. But, what's really cool is that I'm learning every single day. What's really amazing is that with every reading that I do, I learn so much more because when souls come through to me, they tell me exactly what it was like for them to make the transition from this world to the other side. And what's really cool is I think that there's a lot that we can learn from the spirits, not just about death and dying, but about living our life now and about living our life while we're in it, right? Because what's really crazy is that life is freaking hard. We have so many challenges, so many questions. We don't know if we're making the right choice. If we're not, we don't know what lies ahead. But the spirits do. They've already been through this journey, and there's so much that they can share with us, which is the reason why I wanted to write the book. Because what people don't realize is that spirits do have regrets once they make it to the other side.
So when they have regrets from the other side, Matt, we're going to go down some deep rabbit holes here because my understanding
I was hoping that you would take the bait and that we would, because I think this is something that most people don't want to talk about, but we have to talk about in order to live a better life now.
No, absolutely. So from my understanding, and I'm not sure if I asked you this or not in the last conversation, but to my understanding, there is no past life, there is no future life. All lives are happening at the exact same time. And it's not in a linear fashion, it is in a kind of stacked fashion. So when you have a past life regression, you're kind of just going up and down, or future, you can kind of go that way. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, exactly that.
Okay, great. So then if there is no past life or future life, in the life that we're looking at, so it's kind of like wherever consciousness is focusing its attention, and right now we're focusing our attention on this life. So let's say you and I are focusing our attention on this life. Though our time in Rome, our time in Egypt, and our time in Atlantis are all happening at the exact same time, and our time in whatever happens in our timeline in the future is happening at the same time, and whatever we're doing here ripples back and forth. So does that all make sense?
It does. But what's really amazing is that when we go to the other side, and what this book is about our life review. So what I've learned from the other side is when we actually go through our life review in the spirit world, and the life review is the big look back on our life where we literally see a documentary from the moment we're born to the moment that we left this world, everything in between. We focus on our life that we lived right here in the present, right? And we look back and we see our family, the moment that we were born, the people in our lives that were surrounding us, the people that were helping us, the people that were hurting us, what would have happened if we went down road A, B, and C instead of road 1, 2, 3? For example, have you ever wondered what would have been like if you married your high school sweetheart versus your husband now, or versus your wife now? Have you ever wondered what it would have been like if you took that trip to Europe as opposed to staying here, right? This is what the souls see when they get to the other side. And they also see certain things that they didn't get to discover here in this world, because, part of living life is our discovery process, right? But there's certain things that hold us back. We have limiting self-beliefs, we have worries, we have fears, we have anxieties, and all of these things stop us from living our best life. They stop us from finding our spiritual gifts. They stop us from finding out who we really are, and they stop us from living the best version of our life. And that's really what the souls regret so deeply.
So when you're saying that, because I always love this, I love going down these rabbit holes, because
Me too.
when you say that, oh, what would I always say, like, what would have happened if you would have married that person, or taken that job in New York or something like that? To also my understanding is that when those big life decisions are made, there is a splinter parallel reality that goes off, and that's explored. And that's another one. So there could be thousands, if not endless. I mean, not everything like catch up or no catch up, but these bigger decisions. So like, oh, I wonder what would have happened if I would have continued to play guitar, or what would have happened if I didn't take that corporate job. And that is the things that we kind of see on the other side, from my understanding of interviewing near-death experiencers, that when they go through their life review, they're like, oh, wonder whatever happened if I would have married Jane. What would my life have been? And you can actually see it through your life review and explore that, because it has actually been lived. The soul has actually lived it in a parallel reality. Does that make sense?
People had lived in a parallel reality, because I personally haven't seen that, only because I haven't died, right? But
Right.
what the souls have shared with me through their experiences is that you do go down that path, and you do see what your life would have been like. And I think that's the most amazing thing, because at the end of the life review, everything becomes crystal clear: who your soulmate is, why you had certain challenges, why you went through why you went through certain obstacles within life, how you overcame, what you learned about yourself. All of these things are shown to you after you pass on. And when you go through that life review, and then all suddenly it becomes crystal clear on what your life purpose was and what it is that you were supposed to be doing while you were here and alive. Because listen, while we're living, I don't care how much you think that you have a grasp on life, we really don't grasp what our life purpose is until we see that bigger picture when we get to the other side, and we see all of these roads, we see all the things that our eyes couldn't see when we were alive.
So what advice do the spirit world have for us to help us discover our life's purpose today? So we don't have to wait to die to find out, like, oh, I wish I would have invested in Apple at $8.
So, I thought about this when I was writing the book. So when I wrote the book, the one thing that I really wanted was I wanted people to be able to do their own life review. So I take you through the life review of what the souls go through, what they see, what they experience. And then at the very end of the book, you actually get to go and do your own life review while you're living, and get to make changes now while you're still alive. So what's really cool is that I can tell you this: the souls tell us that the biggest regret were not understanding their gifts more. They've explained to me that we're all born here with certain talents, skills, and abilities that make up who you are and hint toward your life purpose. So the sad thing is that because of society, because of the way that we live, a lot of people are afraid to dive into their own, journey. They're afraid to discover their own gifts. Maybe they're a singer, but they're afraid to sing in public. Maybe they're an artist, but they're afraid to share those gifts with the world, right? Maybe they're a painter or a drawer or an architect, or maybe there's someone that's really just a person who's an inventor or can figure things out. But here in this world, because of the pressures of society, we might not go down that path, because of the fact that, one, we're afraid that we might not make a lot of money, or we won't make it. Two, it might be that we're afraid to share our gifts and abilities because we're afraid of what other people might think. And I can tell you, I was just doing a reading where I learned this. There was a woman I was reading for. It's actually up on my YouTube page. And when I was connecting with her, a friend of hers had come through, and he had gone through his life review. He had passed in tragedy. And the friend that I was connecting with was not just her friend, but also her singing partner. In private, they would write songs together. They would sing with one another. And the one thing that he regretted when he went to the other side was that the world was not able to hear his voice. He didn't share his music. He didn't sing with anybody but her. And that was a God-given gift that he was given here in this world. But because he was so afraid of what other people would think, he was afraid that he wouldn't be good enough. He'd be afraid that his voice would be judged. He silenced himself when he was alive, only singing with her. And she did the same thing. She was equally had the same anxiety and fears. And then when he came through to me during the reading, he told her, you have to sing. You have to share your gift. I didn't share mine. It died with me, but you still have a chance. And I think that's what the souls are sharing with all of us when they get to the side, right? With every reading that I do, it's you still have a chance. If you have not been in a successful relationship, you still have a chance to meet your soulmate. If you haven't had a fulfilling career, it's time. You have the opportunity to do so. And life is all about learning, right? I mean, the thing is that our life purpose, I feel, is also constantly changing based on how our life progresses.
So it's very interesting you use the example of the singer, because there are singers who are born with the gift and are born into a family who is extremely supportive and pushes them down that road. And then there's other families that are born into, and they're like, no, get a real job. What are you talking about? Nobody ever makes money with that. So there's obviously two people with similar gifts that are here to share it with the world. One has a harder journey than the other. And can you explain from the other side's point of view, even the person's soul's other side point of view, the oversoul, if you will's point of view, of why that is? Because you've seen it. You've seen like, oh, Mariah Carey, you're like, oh yeah, I was singing since I was one, and my mom was a opera singer, and blah 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 blah, and all this it was kind of like built for her to walk down that path. And then there's others that you see on like America's Got Talent, who have been a janitor for the last 30 years, and they go up and they sing for the first time in public, and it took them that long to even get to that place. Can you explain the reasoning why and how to overcome those fears?
Absolutely. So first of all, Mariah Carey's case, right? I believe that, first of all, one of the reasons why we have people like that who have, I don't want to say an easier journey, because we all have different challenges in our life journey.
Yeah,
but her journey towards singing was easier than most, because I think that she's meant to inspire others, to show other people what you can be, that you can get there, right? She's an icon to so many singers for that reason. I mean, I think a lot of people who are starting out and look up to her for that reason. But I can also tell you that it happened in my life as well, right? To share a real life experience, I can tell you that, first of all, not everybody around you gives the best advice. You have to listen to the advice that comes from your spirit guides, your loved ones, and your soul, right? Your soul is your inner GPS. Your soul will tell you where you need to be, how to get there, and who to surround yourself with to get to that certain place. And what's so beautiful is that your soul and your spirit guide and your loved ones on the other side, they don't care about statistics. They don't care about, for example, so many people are like, well, only 1% make it, or less than 1% make it. Your spirit guide don't care. Your loved ones don't care, right? If there's a path for you, they will let that path guide you to where it is that you need to be. You just have to trust in where they're leading you. And that happened with me, because when I first started out, discovering my psychic gift, and I decided to go public with this, I remember that my dad had a field day, and so did my mother. They were so upset because my mom was a medium, but she kept it hidden for so many years, because back in her time, people couldn't talk about being a medium, being a psychic. My mom tried to share her gifts with my grandmother, and back in the day, they lost friendships over it. People would think that they were crazy. They would shut her down. They would say it wasn't of God. They would say all of these things. So my mom didn't want me to go through the same pain that she went through. And my dad, from a business point of view, my dad's like, listen, if you come out and say that you're a medium, he's like, and this was, obviously I just graduated high school. He's like, if you come out and you say you're a medium, and at the time I was an EMT, and I was going to have a career in medical. He's like, how are people going to take you seriously? What's going to happen when he goes, the first thing people do is Google, right? How do you think it's going to look when, hospitals and whatnot Google you and they see, oh, this guy speaks to the dead? They're going to think you're crazy. And my dad's like, you're not going to be able to make money off of this. You're not going to be able to sustain yourself. You're not, you're going to do more harm than you are good. And I didn't see it that way. I knew that my dad was coming to me from a place of love. He was scared. Right. He was nervous. He had very valid points. But at the same time, I felt something. I felt a calling that I had to fulfill. And, despite everybody, my whole family thinking, this is just a phase, this isn't going to last, he's not, we're going to kind of ignore this because it's going to fizzle out. When they found out that I was living my purpose and finding out, oh my God, they saw the lives that I was helping, the people that I was touching, all of these things. not only did it inspire the people around me, but it also inspired my mom to get back into using her gift as well. And, it was just an amazing story that, I share all the time, because I know that there's people who are here that are listening. You're one, Alex. I mean, look what you've done with your podcast and your YouTube channel. And anybody, I'm sure when you first started it, you have a very similar story as mine, where people said, that's not going to go anywhere. Right.
I mean, listen, I've come from the film industry. So that was at the very beginning of my career. Everyone was like, what are you doing? My parents, my mother was different. My father was like yours, just like, film industry. Might as well just run away with the circus. Like, how can you make money with that? I mean, it was so beyond his comprehension. My mom didn't understand it, but she supported me and she pushed me through. By the time I got to the podcast thing, I was already working in the film industry. So my podcast was a side hustle. But people were like, whatever. But when I opened up this one, though, this was a different conversation. It was like, you're opening up a what? A spiritual podcast? Who are you? What have you ever done? And then I'm like, I don't know. I was told to do this, so I'm doing it. And here we are. And now all of a sudden I was very afraid of people finding out about it. And now I've kind of just let go of the other aspects of my past in regards to the film industry and go 110% into this, because it's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's obviously supposed to be, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because you don't have success like this unless it's something that you're supposed to walk down.
Bingo.
And get this kind of path, because there's a lot of other podcasts in the world and a lot of other spiritual podcasts in the world, but very few get the kind of reaction that this is. And I know I'm not in control of it. That's the biggest lesson I've learned on this entire journey. I'm not running the ship. I'm not the engine. I might be the guide a little bit, but the engine behind me is I have no idea what's going on. And that was the very first time in my life when this show kind of took off, going, I'm not doing this. And that's when the first time I really understood how spirit was working with me.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And like I said, we have a similar story, because you started this as a side hustle, right? Same thing with me. I was doing readings for, $15, $20 back in the day, because, going to people's houses and whatnot, just because I loved it. I loved being able to help people. I loved being able to touch someone's life, and share my gift. And I never expected for it to turn into a career. But yet, as I went down the path and I started to discover, all of a sudden, the doors opened up. And I feel that same way. I feel that when you're on your path, right? And this is what I teach, is that when you're on your path and you're following what's meant for you, there's certain goal that's meant for us within our life, and certain talents and abilities. And when you're really aligned with your talents and skills and abilities, boom, doors just open. It's like magic.
Mm-hmm. No, without question. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about about what spirit's advice is for people is grief and loss. It is something that every single one of us has to deal with. Not one human being gets away with not feeling this, if they live a life on earth. Grief and loss. What advice do they have on how to deal with grief and loss? Because from a soul's point of view is very different than the avatar's point of view, that we're the game, we're the players playing in this game. From the other side is very different perspective than this. We take it extremely seriously, and it's very emotional, and it hurts, and it's painful. It's part of this journey that we're on. But on the other side, to my understanding, they don't look at it the exact same way. In many ways, it's a completely different energy. What do you think?
So I've had many conversations with the spirit world about this, and I can tell you this. I can tell you that, yes, on the other side, the souls do not see grief, death, and dying the same way that we do, right? But there's no way that, unfortunately, we're going to get around this. And here's the reason why. You could have the most faith, you could have the most belief in God, the afterlife, no matter what it is, right? We all go through grief. And there's actually mediums who come to me for readings that have connected with the other side, spoke to the other side, been doing this for years, and then they lose that one person that meant everything to them. And all of a sudden, they question everything. They question their own faith. They question the other side, because death rattles us. And the thing is that you can be so spiritual, but we're also having a human experience. So grief is something that you can't escape, whether you're a priest, whether you're a medium, doesn't matter how grounded you are. We all feel it. And I can tell you this. I can tell you that, there was this medium that came to me that was having a really hard time. She was really gifted, could connect with the other side, had been doing it for years. She had lost her husband. And then after losing her husband, she had come to me and said to me, Matt, and by the way, this has happened so many times. There was one who had lost her husband. There was one who had lost her mom. And it comes to me and said, Matt, what do I do now? What do I do? I can't connect with my husband. I can't connect with my mom. I can't connect with this one, right? That one death sent them upside down. Well, grief can sometimes act as a block for us. It's something that our minds can't comprehend because a loved one is here with us one minute and gone the next. And then as humans, we have to get used to communicating with them in a different way, feeling them in a different way, and getting used to that relationship all over again. So what I can tell you is this: the spirit world tells me that for them, it's easy because they can see into our world any time that they want. They can see us talking right now. They're by your side right now. They're there when you're crying, when you're upset, when you're emotional. They don't miss out on holidays, birthday celebrations. They're with you always. But the sad part is that us as humans, we can't see directly into their world like they can see ours. We have to rely on faith. We have to rely on signs. We have to rely on a whole new situation, and it's scary and it's different and it's hard. But at the same time, that's where faith comes in. And at the same time, I think that anytime that we lose someone, as much of a challenge and a struggle it is, the way that we get over grief, and we never truly get over it, but the way that we work through it, I should say, is by learning to communicate with our loved ones in a different way. Realizing that there is no such thing as death. It is a transition on. And then also figuring out how to communicate with them. Once we go through the whole grief cycle, we start to receive signs, we see that as an open door that we can use to communicate with our loved ones and our past.
So Matt, let me ask you, because this is something that's very I've been fascinated with, is the concept of frequency. And being able to, as like, let's say yogis and other people, ascended masters will raise their frequency, they're able to see things differently. And you have been gifted to be able to see and connect. Do you see, or you only connect with the other side? Like, do you see?
No, I see.
You see as well. Okay. So you're actually, you're able to tune into the frequency of the other side here. Because they're all around us, like you say. Like microwaves Absolutely. Are all around us. Radio waves are all around us. But unless you've got the instruments to tune into it, it's just invisible things around you. So you've been able to tune into that. So is there a way for us to continue to raise our frequency in this life, to be able to not only see other things, but just to elevate our lives, to see behind the matrix, if you will, just a little bit more than we see now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, actually, it starts in two different ways, right? So first of all, this is kind of like a two-part answer. So first of all, the number one way that all mediums connect with the other side is through thoughts, right? So thoughts, you can measure a thought. A thought is a frequency, like you said. So what's crazy is that, obviously we're programmed first to deal with life. So our brain is programmed to deal with the constant hustle and bustle, right? Worrying about our taxes, worrying about our bills, worrying about our children, worrying about eating, drinking, exercising, sleeping, right? That's what's going on in our brain every single day. Our brain is programmed to deal with life. But you can also program your brain to access those certain frequencies and to tap in. So you already have loved ones, angels, and spirit guides that are with you, that are trying to get in touch with you. They're all sending you different messages. Your angels are sending you messages of hope and healing. Your spirit guides are helping you to, achieve those milestones in life and get to the places where you need to be. And then you have your loved ones in spirit that are popping in when you're missing them and reassuring you, letting you know that they're there. But what also happens is this, and this is why it's kind of like a two-part answer, is that remember, every soul communicates differently. So when you said to me, do you see the other side? Well, yeah, I do, but it all depends on how that soul communicates. There's some souls that'll come through and tell me what their name is, how they're dressed. They'll show me moments of their life. They'll show me who they're with. And there's some souls that are more reserved. There's some souls that are actually boring to talk to in the spirit world, right? And it all depends on how that soul communicates. So some souls I might hear more, some souls I might feel more, some souls I might see more of, if that makes sense. So what they're really using is first starts off using those frequencies in your brain. What they're really doing is they're coming in and they access those frequencies and they use it as a conference room to reach you. And that's why we are all psychic through our dreams. Every single one of us can hear, see, think, and feel the departed through our dreams, because when your body shuts down and your mind isn't responsible for putting the groceries away, for wondering about if you put gas in the car, you're not responsible for any of those life tasks. Your mind opens up to the spirit worlds where you can receive messages from the other side. And if you've ever had a dream where you're so, what's so beautiful is that it is really them. You know what a spirit looks like. And that's the reason why a lot of times when I'm doing readings, when I'll describe the person that I'm seeing, right? People will say to me, oh my God, Matt, I had a dream of my mom and she looked exactly like that, exactly as you described her. Or Matt, I had a dream of my dad and yes, that's what he looked like. That's what he was wearing. It's because you're seeing spirit too.
And also when you were saying that, as far as sleeping, that also happens in meditation. If you can actually meditate
Absolutely.
to a certain level, shut down the mind, opens up the doorway, but in a more controlled fashion than in dreaming, generally speaking. Is that right?
Absolutely. And I think that's exactly what it is, right? The same thing you're talking about meditation. I talk about it from a psychic standpoint. People say to me, well, what are visions like? What are you actually seeing when you're getting a vision? Well, visions are dreaming while you're awake is basically what it is. It's like a little daydream that just puts you there. It's communicating with spirit, almost like how they have those Google glasses now, or like that Apple
thing.
What's it called, the VR, where you can go and see this alternate universe that's there, and you put the glasses on, all of a sudden life disappears and you see this other world. Well, that's exactly what a psychic vision is like.
Now, one other thing, I'd love to hear the spirit's advice about the importance of forgiveness in life, because there's so many people who wrong us, or we wrong them, and we either hope for forgiveness or need to give forgiveness. Can you tell us the advice that spirit has for us about forgiveness?
Yes. So this is one of the big key points that's in my book, because when souls go to the other side, forgiveness is a huge factor. And, still to this day, Alex, there's people who can't figure out how the souls exist with one another in spirit. For example, I was just doing a reading for a woman, and it was actually two sisters that came to my online reading. And when I was connecting with them, their dad and their mom were coming through. And I said, your dad and your mom are here. They're coming through together. And they looked at each other and started bursting out laughing. And they're like, come on, that can't be my dad. That can't be my mom. They're like, they hated each other here in this world. You're definitely off on this. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, they were divorced. They wouldn't be coming through together. And I'm like, no, they are. And they're like, well, they couldn't even stand to be in the same room. We had to have, holidays separate with one another. We couldn't even mention their names in front of one another, right? How could they be coming through together? And they misinterpreted what I was saying. What I was saying is that their mom and their dad were coming through together for one reason, to both watch over them. Well, it didn't mean that they were in bed with each other on the other side. Didn't mean that they, automatically were holding hands in the spirit world. But, when people are divorced here in this world and families are separated or torn apart, we expect that those families are not going to be able to, or some people expect, I should say, that the families are not going to be able to, break bread with each other in the afterlife. And the truth is that there are no different sides of heaven, right? It's not like here in this world where we have visitation hours with children and you get to see your dad 2 weeks and mom gets to see them 2 weeks, right? In heaven, everyone is with one another. And that's where forgiveness comes in.
If you're enjoying this conversation, I invite you to go deeper down the rabbit hole with me on Next Level Soul TV. It's packed with exclusive content like live special guest Q&As, daily podcasts, commercial-free access to the entire Next Level Soul catalog, early access to episodes before they air, and special meditations you won't find anywhere else. We will be adding new exclusive content every month, plus you can connect with me during my monthly live streams. Just go to nextlevelsoul.com/subscribe and join our soulful community today. I'll see you on the inside.
Because heaven wouldn't be a place of peace if it wasn't for forgiveness. And the reason why is that we all make mistakes. There's things when we go through our life review that we're all going to be sorry for. And we're all going to realize things in a different way. We're going to realize that, yes, we've had it hard in life, in certain areas of life. Other people have had it hard. And we also get to see those people that were mean to us, those people that wronged us. What was going on in their life? What caused them to wrong us? Was it they were jealous because of X, Y, and Z? Was it because they were going through pain because this happened in their life, right? We get to see all of this and we understand each other so much better. So when the souls forgive each other, for example, I learned a lot through that reading of the husband and wife that were separated, divorced, and that were coming together through their children. They decided through their life review to put their differences aside to coexist in heaven for one reason, because they both wanted access to be able to watch over their daughters. At the end of their life, what they fought about here in this world, the money, the money, the house, the car, all those things didn't mean anything anymore. What they both really wanted was to see their daughters living and enjoying life. And the only way to do that would be to forgive and to move on and to come together and to support them, right? And that's what's missing here on earth. So many times we're fighting, there's divorces that happen, families are torn apart, and we don't realize how it affects the children or the other people that are involved. But in the afterlife, we see it crystal clear. And I don't think we're ever going to get to that point as humans, unfortunately, because we all go through human emotions. We go through jealousy and greed and all of these different things that, we experience here in life. But what's so beautiful is in the afterlife, we forgive and we let go. And that when we forgive and let go, our soul is free. It doesn't matter anymore. And that's one of the greatest life lessons that the other side wishes. They wish that they could teach us here in this world, to let go of the fear, anxiety, worry, forgive, don't hold grudges, because anytime you hold a grudge, you're doing that. You're holding that energy. You're holding that energy here. And why should you let someone else control your life or manipulate your life or leave you with negative energy based on something that they did? Well, people don't realize it. They think that holding a grudge is protecting them, when actually what it's doing is you're holding on to someone else's energy. You're holding on to the pain of someone else. And that's what's so sad.
So to my understanding though, Matt, that on the other side, when you're putting your soul blueprint together, your soul plan together, let's say that husband and wife, for example, those two souls got together and were like, okay, this time we're going to go together and we're going to teach each other some lessons. And we're going to also teach our children who are going to coming in right behind us in this life some lessons. And you and I are going to battle. We're going to do this and that. We're going to do that for each other so we can grow as souls. So is that make sense in your world?
It does. And I also think at the same time as well that, it does make sense, but also is situational based, right? Sometimes we miss our soulmate. Sometimes just because, sometimes divorces happen because we're not with our soulmate. We're with somebody for the wrong reasons, right? Maybe we're with somebody because we felt pressure from our family. Maybe we're with somebody because we felt our biological clock ticking. Maybe we're with somebody because, the money was easy. I don't know what it is, right? And sometimes we are with our soulmate. But what I can tell you is that some souls are not meant to be together, right? They just don't, they don't work together in that way.
Oh, very much so.
And that's okay. That's okay, right? But it also sets our children up, or like it says, that life that's happening behind us, to understand, okay, mom and dad can never make it work. And it's so funny that I think that children can see and understand things better sometimes than adults can, right? Mm-hmm. When we grow up, we realize, okay, mom and dad weren't right for each other because of this, and this. I know that they tried to make it work for us, but they really just weren't compatible, and I want to find true love. And it's funny because we see the mistakes most of the time that our families go through, and we try to better our own lives because of it. I think we're always trying to learn.
Now, what advice does Spirit have for people to overcome the feelings of loneliness and isolation? Because there's so many of us who feel at least moments in their lives, if not for long periods of time, of loneliness. Maybe someone just passed, or maybe you just haven't found that soulmate, or maybe you just haven't been able to achieve the goals in your career that you might have wanted to, or with your own body, or with whatever that thing is that makes you feel lonely and isolated away from everywhere else. What advice do they have?
So find your new purpose. That's what Spirit is always telling us. We're always finding a different purpose within life. And, when you start to venture out of that, right? Meaning that when you start to feel lonely, when you start to feel sad, dig back deep, look back to what brought you happiness in the past, right? It goes back to our God-given gifts. Are you a singer? Are you a writer? What brings you happiness and joy? And what's really cool is that when we're really at a time when we're lonely and we're sad and we're in despair, Spirit has a really special way of helping us to get to where we need to be and to fighting that. What I mean by that is that there was a woman I was connecting with, and a lot of the things that I share with you are stories from readings, because that's how I've learned so much about the afterlife. Right. So there was this one woman that I read for, I'll never forget. It happened in Detroit, Michigan. She had come to see me, and the moment I connected with her in the audience, her son was there. And after losing her son, she felt like she lost everything. She really didn't have any family. It was just her alone. She was lonely. She was sad. She was depressed. She didn't want to leave her house anymore, and understandably so. And then all of a sudden, a friend of hers called and said, hey, there's this dog that, is running outside. So anyway, long story short, she goes outside. She sees the stray dog. She brings the dog in. She doesn't know what to do. She brings the dog to the animal shelter, and they said, hey, if you leave the dog here, the dog's going to end up being euthanized. So she didn't want that to happen. So she took the dog back home with her and tried her hardest to go and help this dog find its owner. Well, no owner ever showed up. And long story short, in the days and weeks that dog ended up changing her life. That dog, would get her out of the house every morning at 6 a.m. to go for a walk, at 3 p.m. to go for a walk. All of a sudden, she found herself walking the dog, meeting other people with their dogs, having conversations, getting to know people around the neighborhoods. And next thing you know, that dog became her dog. She was bringing the dog to doggy day camp, to the dog spa, all of these things. And she all of a sudden found a different type of love all around her, not just with the dog, but with all these beautiful people that reminded her of why to keep living her life. And anyway, during this reading, her son in spirit told her that he sent that dog to her. That dog just didn't appear in her life. That dog was sent to her because that dog was also feeling lonely and alone. That dog was abandoned by its owner, needed a good soul. That son in spirit somehow orchestrated that dog to find his mom. His mom needed that dog to pull her out of this loneliness. And that was a perfect example of how heaven was helping her and how she took that situation and ran with it. Well, heaven is doing the same thing for you. Your angels and spirit guides and loved ones, you're not alone. And certain things unfold within your life, but you have to give them a chance. For example, when heaven sees that you're going through a challenge or a struggle or situation, the way that they respond is through different channels. For example, for that woman, the channel was her dog. For you, it could be that all of a sudden, an old friend of yours reaches out on Facebook and says, hey, let's go get a coffee, right? Or you meet someone random who, wants to befriend you, or a door opens up where all of a sudden you get invited to a certain get together, a certain party with people you haven't seen in years. There's certain doors that open, and we really are here on earth to support one another. And we find comfort in one another, even though sometimes, some of our grief and pain can be from people or past events that we've had with people. So what the souls really show us is that here on earth, it's really important that we support one another, but we're also open to growing and getting ourselves out there. So many times when we're lonely and sad and alone, we isolate ourselves. We don't want to be around people. We shut the world out, when really it's an opportunity to let the world in and to rediscover yourself.
Now, you brought up the dog in a beautiful story. I've always wanted to ask this question, and I don't think I've asked it on the show. Do animals have souls? And if they do, how do they progress into a higher level of evolution? Because obviously a dog's consciousness is a slightly bit different than our consciousness. So how do they, if they do have souls, how do they evolve? And how are they, because listen, I've had animals. I have animals right now. You can't tell me that there's not something going on in there, because these little guys they got personalities. They teach you lessons constantly, especially this one cat I have. But they all kind of teach you lessons. And I'd love to hear how that's orchestrated, if they have souls, and how do they connect with us, maybe on a karmic level, or how are they connecting? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I'm so glad that you asked this question, because this is something that most people don't know. And it's not, well, excuse me. In my world, everybody knows that pets do have souls, right? But what they don't realize, and just like you said, that those souls do evolve when they get to the other side. So pets do have souls. They do go to heaven. They don't go to a different heaven. They go to the same heaven that we do. They actually wait with our family members, loved ones, and friends that have passed on before them. But here's what's really cool, is that when our pets pass on to the other side, they go through a life review as well. And this is something that, yes, So this is something that most people don't know. And this is something that is like, I think is the coolest thing about the life review process is that young children go through it, pets go through it, we go through it. So what happens when a pet goes through a life review? How is it different than our soul? Well, when a pet goes to the other side, what's really cool is here in this world, pets don't know the things that we know. For example, they don't know why you're leaving them every day when you go to work. They don't understand that when you're bringing them home food, that you just went out and paid $50 for, you know, a big bag of dog food or cat food. They don't understand why you're giving them needles or why you're bringing them to the vet and making them go and go through this crazy process where they're shaking and whatnot, right? They don't understand those things here in this world. Now, pets do know when you're helping them and when you're hurting them, right? But they don't understand why. Well, once those pets go to the other side, they understand why, because they go through their life review. During that life review, they can see the moment they were born. They can also see the moment that you adopted them. Did you adopt them from a shelter? Did you take them from, you know, another owner that wasn't caring for them properly? Was it something that, you know, you went to the pet store and got an instant connection with them? However that your soul found them, they see the moments that you brought them home, and they see how much you loved them, what you did for them, and the sacrifices that you made. For example, there was this one woman I was reading for. I'll never forget this. And this is the first time I really realized that pets have gone through the life review. She had this big, I believe it was a pit bull that she absolutely loved here in this world. And the dog was an older dog. I think the dog was like 12 or 13. And the dog had heart issues. And this dog was like her baby. So she brought the dog to the vet and they said, hey, listen, the dog has a weak heart. There was an issue where the dog would actually need, believe it or not, I didn't even know that they did this, an open heart surgery. So the dog needed a surgery, and it was very, very expensive. The cost was like, it was somewhere between like $12,000 and $13,000. I mean, it was an insane amount of money. And the vet told the woman, listen, we can do the surgery, but it's an old dog. Don't know if the dog's going to make it through it. You know, and then afterwards, you know, we don't know if the dog's going to live 6 months or 6 years. You don't know. Well, anyways, this dog was this woman's baby, and she didn't have a lot of money, but she took money out of her retirement, which really she didn't have, to go forward with this surgery. And the dog had the surgery, and the dog lived 6 months, was recovered, lived a good 6 months, and then it passed away. And passed away from something completely different, believe it or not, did not even pass from the heart. So long story short, the woman, you know, didn't care about the money, even though she would have to work, you know, an extra couple of years just to pay for that surgery that the dog had been through. She didn't make much money. She didn't care about it. Just having those 6 months with that dog meant everything. Well, when the dog came through to me on the other side, the dog had known that she put up the 13 grand for the surgery, that she was faced with this decision, either put the dog down or give the dog a chance. And he saw that this woman loved him so, so much that she didn't care if it was 2 weeks, a month, or a year. She was going to pay any type of money just to give that dog some extra time so she could spend time with his soul while he was alive. And he saw that during the life review. So all of your animals see this. They also see the things that you've given up for them. How many times do you have a cat or a dog that might have diabetes, and you know you have to run home in between shifts at work, right, to give that dog or that cat their medication? How many times did you have to say no to going to a wedding, to going to visit a friend, to going on vacation because you didn't want to leave your dog, right? And you're like, this freaking dog's never gonna realize this. Well, they do realize it when they pass on and when they go.
That's that. So let me ask you, because a lot of animals have, like you said, physical issues, cancers, bad hips. They go through suffering early on. Doesn't it only happen to older dogs early on, or older pets early on? What is the purpose of that? Because for humans, I get it. It's part of our evolutionary journey, our struggle, things that we want to learn as a soul. We have to kind of go through these struggles, and we kind of set some of this stuff in our soul plan. But are there soul plans for dogs and cats and animals and horses and birds and fish and all the? Because if I don't say all the freaking animals in the world, I get a comment. Well, why didn't you say
yes, I know the
albino
yes.
alligator? Albino alligators are pets too. I'm like, yes, I know. But
the
all
crew.
yes,
the
exactly
crew, right?
Exactly. So what why does that happen? Why do they go through that? Or is it just
Well,
to teach us?
I think that pets come into our life as, for many, many different reasons. I mean, it's amazing, the soul connection. So first of all, the reason why we love pets so much is because our soul can see the soul that's within that living creature. And what's so beautiful is that pets have their own plan. Some pets come into this world as a seeing eye dog for a little girl, a little boy, or a man who couldn't see here in this world. Some pets come in as an emotional support dog or emotional support cat, believe it or not, for somebody, or animal, I should say, for the comment crew, right? For somebody who couldn't have children, or somebody who had seizures, or someone who, for example, couldn't live their life because they had such bad anxiety. Some animals come in at a time when we really need them, and there are protectors. For example, you hear those stories in the news of, dogs saving their owner from a burning house or from carbon monoxide or whatever it may be. Those souls do have a purpose. And what's also really interesting is that here in this world, right, animals are a different species, and we can't communicate with pets the way that we communicate with one another. But what's really cool is that in spirit, and it kind of freaks me out a little bit, is that in spirit, all of the animals can communicate with one another, and we can communicate with them in the afterlife, which I'm not sure if I'm ready for. I know everyone doesn't, I gotta be honest with you, I kind of think it's creepy. I don't know how you feel about that. I think it's weird that on the other side, spirits can just talk to cats and dogs and alligators, and
Sure.
like it's all cool.
It's a different, to my understanding, it's a knowing. It's not even talking. It's almost like an instant communication that you just have an
Yes.
understanding with each other. So it's not like you and me having a conversation. It's just kind of like done. It's feeling. A lot of it's feeling, and information is being processed in a very, very, very different way. So, if you're sitting around talking to an alligator, I'm sure, what's his name? The crocodile hunter is up there talking to a bunch of crocodiles. So
That's a good way of looking at it. That's a good,
I mean,
you know what it is? I'm
yeah.
so used to the pets being silent, right? And not
Right.
talking, that I'm thinking to myself, when I get to the other side, what the hell's going to happen when all of a sudden all my animals are going to be talking to me? I'm going to be like, but I've asked the other side countless times about this, and they're like, it's not like that at all. We're already communicating with our pets here in life, just in a different way through sensing and feeling. And it's kind of that same way in the afterlife. The only thing is that, like you said, the information comes to us through knowing, understanding, and feeling.
Now, do animals have the ability to see, like dead people, souls? Because
Absolutely.
you've seen cats, you've seen stories about cats and dogs seeing things. What's your thoughts on it?
Oh no, I know 100%. I mean, there's so many readings that I do where pets do come back and visit their owners from the afterlife, and owners come back and visit their pets from the afterlife. So that might be the reason why you might see your dog chasing something or barking at something when nothing is there, is because they are seeing a soul. They have different eyes than we do. And for that reason, and different perception, I should say. And it's for that reason that animals don't fear death the way that we do. They definitely can see and sense and feel spirit, and they have a sixth sense. People try to go and explain this away with science, right? For example, I don't know if your cats are like mine, but anytime that there is a storm coming, the cats act crazy. They go and they will run downstairs and run under the stairs. They know and sense when the weather's changing. Now, it could be a beautiful day with the sun out and everything's fine and no weather predicted in the future. And then all of a sudden they start to act weird and they'll run and they'll do whatever they got to do, right? It's because of the fact that they have this perception. They have these extra skills, and people say, oh, well, it's the static electricity in the air and it's this, it's that. No, they have this other perception. It's the same reason why you might have a dog. Okay, I've seen this happen many times as well. You might have a dog that loves everybody, kisses everybody ever, right? People come over the house. The dog is so loving, loves people, loves to meet new people. But the minute that someone bad comes and breaks into your house, that dog becomes an attack dog. For example, it happened with one of the readings that I did where there was this woman who had this dog. The dog was the friendliest dog ever, was good around children, babies, everything. People would constantly drop by your house, dropping off mail and certain things. But one day, her house had gotten broken into, and this man came in. And when the man came in, the dog knew that wasn't a friend. It wasn't a family member. It wasn't someone just checking on the house. That it was a bad person, and that dog attacked that man. And luckily, she came home. The window was open. There was glass broken. And nothing got stolen in the house because the dog had attacked him. And she was like, how did the dog know? I have people coming in and out of my house all the time. She goes, I never expected this dog to act this way. Well, the dog knew that person's intention was not good. And that shows me that, yes, pets do sense and feel things that we can't.
If you want to hear a quick story, I had
Yes,
a
I
dog
do.
for almost 13 years. Last 5 or 6 of them were very difficult. They had a condition, and it was a very difficult condition. But he, kept going. And I was a young man, and I started dating my wife. And about 30 days into dating my wife, I brought her over to meet my dog. My dog met her, threw her a lot of kisses, a lot of love, all this stuff. The next day he died. Because he's like, oh, thank God he found, I've been holding the fort down, waiting for someone to come and help him and to take him and partner with him for the rest of his life. Take it from here. Kind of like passing the baton. It was just the weirdest thing. The next day he was like, I'm out. And he was gone just the second he met my wife. And I've been together with my wife ever since, but it was a very young, I was still in my 20s when that happened. But I was just so floored by that. And I always think back about that. I'm like, my God, that little dog was there watching over me, being my company when I was lonely or, looking for my soulmate. And when I finally found her, he's like, oh, thank God. Okay, I can go now. And he was out. Have you heard these kind of stories before?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will tell you this. I'll tell you that, pets do hold on just like people do. And they know how much how much they mean to us. And many times they're with you till you open that next chapter and you get ready to open the next chapter. For you, it was your wife. For some animals, it's waiting for that child to be born because they're like, okay, good. Like, this is my point to exit, where yes, they're going to be sad. Yes, they're going to be upset that I'm leaving. But at the same time, they have these beautiful things to look forward to. For you, it was, that dog knew this was going to be your wife. This was going to be your forever person. This was your soulmate. I can leave now. This is just some of the reasons why pets come into our lives. And I've seen it happen so many times where pets will hang on, waiting for you to meet that person, have that child, be at a place where you're steady in your life, be at a better place emotionally so that they can take that next step forward and they can transition on. And I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of our pets. And I also think it's a combination of God that allows that to happen as well.
Now, how does the spirit world recommend we approach the concept of destiny versus free will, which is something that a lot of people are like, because we talk about soul plans, we talk about this and that, but people are like, well, then what's the point of all this? If it's all pre-planned, if there's destiny only, am I just a puppet? What's the point of all this? How does spirit look at that?
Well, first of all, you're never a puppet, right? The thing is that we have spirit guides for a reason. And our spirit guide is trying to point us to where we should be in life, what road we should go down. But it's a hard road, right? It's not an easy road, especially getting to your destiny as well. But I can tell you that when it comes to our life, nothing is pre-planned. It's the reason why we have free will, because you can have the most amazing wife or significant other, and it could be your soulmate. And then next thing you know, you can make a really bad move like cheating or, lying or whatever it may be and ruin that whole relationship. Right. And then what happens now? Well, that's why you have that's why you have a spirit guide. Is like an inner GPS. In the same way when we're driving down the road, when we take a wrong turn, we take the wrong left or the wrong right, or we go down the wrong exit, your GPS says rerouting, and it's trying to get you back on task. That happens with us. And that's the reason why some people don't realize their life purpose or don't meet their soulmate until later on in life. And I talk about this in my book because here's what happens, okay? Is that here in this world, we might be driven by other factors. We have free will. So your spirit guide might be pointing and saying, hey, soulmate. And you might be saying, oh my God, but hot guy, or sexy woman. So you're taking a right where your spirit guide is saying go left, right? because we're driven by other forces here on Earth. But what's really cool, and your spirit guide doesn't get tired, they have the job of putting the different options in front of you. You know, soulmate, you know, sexy person, good person. You make the choice of if you're gonna be with person 1, 2, and 3, right? Or if you're gonna go down this road versus this road, if you're gonna try this versus this. And you know, sometimes we don't make the right choices or decisions. Or sometimes what happens is, sadly enough, our soulmate doesn't make the right choices and decisions, and it screws us over too, right? For example, there was one woman I read for, she didn't meet her soulmate here in this world. Couldn't figure out why. Well, when I was doing the reading, I found out that she had met her soulmate. It was back in high school, but you know, unfortunately, he had died, and you know, he died in tragedy. And there was no way that, you know, they were so young at the time, there was no way they could explore that relationship. So there are, and this is what sucks about life, there are outside factors that are here. If you don't meet your soulmate, you do end up with a life partner, or maybe you end up alone. But on the other side, what we don't figure out here in this world, it's put back together in the afterlife. There's a reason why there's a life after this one. It's because whatever however we screw up here in this world, whatever lessons, because there are going to be lessons and certain things that we see on the other side that we didn't get to achieve or go through, and that's okay, because in the afterlife we go through the rediscovery process, if that makes sense.
It does. Now, how does spirit recommend or suggest we navigate and resolve conflicts with others in this life? Because I don't know about you, I've had a couple of conflicts with others.
Oh yeah,
where
especially if you're Italian.
So in these different aspects of our life, we're always having conflicts and issues like that with other people. Our frequencies don't match, as they say. What advice does spirit have for that?
Well, it depends on what it is. Okay, so first of all, I'll tell you this, because I think that this is something that a lot of the viewers need to hear. Sometimes you can't resolve conflict, and that's what's so sad, because it's not with you, it's with the other person. And if you can't resolve a conflict, for example, you know, everybody wants to, I shouldn't say everybody, but most people, when they go through a breakup or when they go through a divorce, you know, they want to be civil with that other person, but a lot of times that does not happen, right? Yeah, and right. Sometimes we go through a breakup, or we go through a hardship, or we go through the loss of a friend, and we never get closure in that relationship. You might say, hey, what did I do wrong? Hey, I need to talk to you. I really want to make this right. And you can try and try and try and try. But what the spirit world tells me is that sometimes, and this is the saddest thing, it also happens with death too. Sometimes when we're not able to resolve things with the person, closure within ourselves. We have to accept it for what it was and realize, okay, you know what? They're not going to talk. They're going to be however they are. I forgive them. I let it go. But, you know, at the same time, you can write them a letter or a note, but you have to at one point shut the door and let it go and not chase it if they're not ready to meet you on that same energy and in that same safe space and resolve things. But what I can also tell you is this, is that this is one of the things that the spirit world deals with all the time, is that when we go through our life review, the reason why we're able to forgive so many people in heaven is that souls understand us in a different way. So for example, people say to me, yeah, well, in the spirit world, do souls know what I'm thinking? And I'm like, yes. And people start freaking out. I know that people just cringed when I said that. So like, well, I don't want my dad to know this. I don't want my mom to know this. They're looking at you in a different way. Souls know what you're thinking. And and on the other side, your loved ones feel so much closer to you than they were here in this world. Even whether it be your husband, whether it be your wife, your mom, or your dad, here's the reason why. They know your worries, challenges, and struggles. They know what your inner stress is. They know your inner challenges. They know the things that have been really bothering you on the inside. When your loved ones go to the side, they see that. And they also see the rationale, why you made certain decisions in your life, why you chose this path versus this path, why you chose to go back to your ex-husband instead of finding someone new. All of those things that we may have judged here on earth, we judge for a reason, because we don't understand why that person's making that decision. We don't understand what's motivating them, right? Why isn't that person going, excelling in their career? Why aren't they sharing their voice? Why aren't they getting on stage? Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? We can't rationalize it. But when we go to the other side and we go through our life review and we transition on, we see our own challenges and struggles, but we also see what the people that we love and care about, what their inner challenges are, what caused them to make the certain decisions, what caused them to get to that final result. And we're able to understand them in a deeper and more profound way. So why I'm saying this is that that's what the souls try to explain to us here on earth, is that when they get to the other side, they see a different version of us. They see a version of us that was kept hidden from the outside world. And imagine if you shared that side of you here while you're living. Imagine if you shared, what your worries and fears are, what you're afraid of. If you talked more, if you shared more about what your thoughts were, right? You would be able to go and people would be able to understand you more. And if you heard this from other people, you'd be able to understand them more. And it would bring you closer in the relationship. That's why our loved ones feel closer to us in the afterlife, is they have access to this piece of us that we don't normally share. And if we shared it here on earth, our relationships would be so much better.
Matt, let me ask you one last question. What is the spirit world's view on the role of spirituality and or religion in our life? Because it is I know this is a minefield, so I know this, but I'm sure you can handle it. Because the role of spirituality, and I mean, it used to be religion, but that is starting to fade away a little bit, especially with the newer generation coming up, where organized religion is not as important, where spirituality might be starting to take up, or whatever. And it doesn't have to be organized spirituality. It could just be conversations like you and I are having about knowing that there's another side, connecting with your soul, things like that. What is the role of all of this in our lives from a spirit's point of view?
Well, first I'm going to talk about from a human point of view, right? Because I had a hard time with this. I was born and raised Catholic. And, when you're born and raised Catholic, and don't take this the wrong way when I say it for everyone out there, okay? I only knew one religion. I didn't know that there was a such thing as being Jewish or Muslim, or whatever it may be. Buddhist, I didn't understand. I only thought there was one religion. I thought it was just being Catholic. There was, one God. I didn't understand anything about it. And people, I'm Catholic, because I worship Jesus. I made my communion. I would do all the steps, so on and so forth. But it wasn't until I started, connecting with the other side and reading people from all different backgrounds, whether you're Jewish, Muslim, you name it, right? Spiritual, whether you're an atheist, doesn't matter what you believe in. I've read for so many people, and I realized one thing: religion is just an access point. There is only one heaven. And what's so beautiful is that all the religions, there's something that can be learned from all of them, and they all exist around all of us. So in my office, I have different symbols and different things around this whole office that represent each religion. They're all welcome here. And from now, I don't consider myself, Catholic or just on one religion. I consider myself, I consider my religion spirituality for that reason, because to me, I've read for so many people, and I can tell you that we all connect with the spirit world in one way. We all sense and feel the higher power in one way. We all end up in one place. So to me, all religion is welcome. And I think that that's the one thing that people have a hard time with, as I did, is understanding that you don't have to conform to one religion. You can learn about multiple, and it's whatever feels right to you in your heart. And so for some people, it's not organized religion. It's going to the church of being a good person, right? And that's really what it is that some people don't believe in going to church. Some people don't believe in certain religions, or not that they don't believe. They feel the higher power. They know that there's an afterlife, but they're just not into organized religion. And that's okay. I've never seen anyone turn down from the spirit world because they weren't brought up that way, or because they didn't believe in it, or whatever it may be.
Why is it so difficult for people to understand that concept you just laid out? Because I agree with you 110%, where there's multiple roads to the same destination. If you're born Muslim and that's all you know, if you're born Catholic and that's all you know, if you're born atheist and that's all you know, whatever those paths are, that's what you were born into. That's the kind of path that you were thrown into. And maybe somewhere along life you start, I'm going to read that book, or oh, I'm going to look into Buddha, or I'm going to look into Confucius, and whatever the path is. Why can't people have that understanding? Like, it's okay if you don't believe what I believe. I think we're all connected. We all have a different path to walk to get to the same place. What's your opinion, or what is Spirit's opinion of that?
You know, well, I gotta tell you, I'll tell you my opinion on that. It's funny because when I first started doing this work, and obviously, there was some people who feel it goes against Catholicism. So people would say to me, you're not Catholic. You can't be a medium and be Catholic, right? And that's like telling somebody that they're not Italian because they don't like tomatoes. It's like come on, right?
Which was really only introduced. Tomatoes were really only introduced like 600 years ago into Italy. Before then, tomatoes weren't even a thing. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
But yeah, no, that's really what it's like when someone says, "Oh, you're a medium. You can't. You're not Catholic." Then, well, then what? You know what I mean? It's like saying you're not Italian. But then I used to be hurt by that in the beginning. I really did. And then one day I woke up and I'm like, you know what? What the hell do I care? It doesn't matter. Like, after doing all of these readings, I'm like, you know what? I believe in all religions. I don't have to conform to just one. To me, it's spirituality encompasses everything. And that's what I love so much about telling people, my religion is spiritualism, because to me, it's open to everybody. I will sit and pray with you. I don't care what religion you are, what you worship, as long as it's for the good of God and the good of us, right? And that's what's so beautiful. And if you look at different religions, we all believe the same thing. So what the hell does it matter? And I think it's more, it's harder to understand. Like, I remember when I was a little kid, we could only go to the Catholic Church because we were Catholic. Well, I didn't understand the difference between the Greek Church, the Presbyterian Church, the Orthodox Church, this one, that one. Like, we all believed in the same God, the same things. Why could I only go to this church and not this one? So I think when you get old, at least when you get older, when you start to look at it and you start to really look at your belief systems and what you believe, your connection is with heaven, the afterlife, and the other side. God, angels, even, right? It doesn't matter about what people here on earth say, or what people here on earth, what basket they put you in. It's about what you believe within your heart.
Beautifully said, my friend. Beautifully said. Now, where can people pick up your new book, Don't Wait Till You're Dead? Great title, by the way. And find out more about what you're doing in the world, my friend.
So Don't Wait Till You're Dead is available to pre-order right now. It's coming out in August, and you can get it on Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, anywhere that you buy books. I'm also recording it, and it's going to be available on audible.com. So make sure that you pre-order. And what I'm really excited about this book is that it's the first book that I ever talk about the life review and exactly what happens. And just like I said earlier, at the end of the book, you get to do your own life review, and you get to discover your own life path and your own journey of what you're going through here in life and how you can make it better.
And do you or Spirit have any final parting messages for the audience?
Yes. So the one thing that I really want people to know is that you have your own psychic gift. You have your own connection to the other side. It's discovering how you connect with Spirit. Do you sense them? Do you feel them? Is it that you get dreams of them? Way to connect. I'm telling you this because the same way that you really want to hear from a loved one in spirit, your loved ones in spirit also want to connect with you. So try to meet them in the middle. Figure out as much as you can about your own gifts, talents, and abilities, because the other side isn't just talking to me. They're also talking to you. You just got to figure out how.
Matt, I appreciate you coming on the show as always, my friend. You're always welcome back. It is such a joy talking to you. And thank you for helping awaken the planet, my friend. So thanks again.
Well, thank you. It was great being here with you.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.